Gets a little tedious once in a while, but I'm not going to whine about it. We're all ramping up for the holiday season, and people are spending money. You know, I went out to L.A. on Wednesday night. Airport was packed on a Wednesday night. No holidays. I mean, it was jam-packed. Flight to L.A. sold out. So Americans are doing what they always do. They're traveling, spending money. I mean, I know some are cutting back, but boy, I got to tell you, and everywhere I went this weekend in L.A., Southern California, tons of people spending money. American consumers drive this economy and the worldwide economy. And they need the government to be open to maximize American potential. And that is the subject of this evening Talking Points memo. So finally, after 41 days, and this was all contrived, and I'll explain it in a moment. The government is now, looks like it's going to be reopened. There are a little more procedural things, but they got 60 senators to okay opening up the government. And 8 Democrats, 8 Democratic senators. And if you want their names, all you got to do is Google and it pop up there. And they said, okay. But, you know, most Democrats want to keep the government closed because they closed it. The Democratic Party closed it. What the Republican proposition was, well, look, just extend the government spending into January because there's another rigmarole has to go in January. And we'll talk about the extension of Obamacare fees. That's what it's all about, health care. And Democrats said, no, you got to give everything we want now. And Trump said, blank you, we're not giving you everything you want. Government shutdown. That's it. That's it. Now, the Democrats believe they won this controversy because of the election last week. Maybe they did. The polls are back and forth, but a lot of polls say that American people blame Republicans. Okay, that's not true, but what are you going to do? So anyway, it's a complicated but interesting exercise in how corrupt our government is. And it is corrupt. It's still the best government in the world as far as our freedom is concerned, but it's corrupt. Schumer, the senator from New York, who's the minority leader, he wanted to keep the government closed. And since it's not going to stay closed, there are left-wing Democrats who are mad at Schumer. Roll the tape.
Breaking news. Chuck Schumer needs to be replaced as minority leader for caving to Donald Trump. Look, I may be the first and only member of Congress to say this, but someone needs to start speaking the truth. If you're not willing to fight to stop premium hikes on 20 million Americans, then what are you willing to fight for?
There's no premium hikes. There is going back before COVID, because during COVID, so many people were ill, the government had to spend the money to help those people who were ill. And now, by law, the spending for Obamacare is supposed to go back to pre-COVID level. But Democrats don't want that. Ro Khanna doesn't want that. He wants to keep the COVID level spending and then add to it the ultimate goal being the national health care system is run by Washington, D.C. That's what the Democratic Party wants. Okay. Now, Schumer, you may remember, last March voted to keep the government open. Okay? He was savagely attacked by the far left. Roll the tape.
Schumer signaled he was going to fight, and then he didn't fight. Why was there such a disconnect, not even between House leadership and Senate leadership, but between what the Senate minority leader was saying and then what he ultimately did?
Because Schumer acted responsibly in March, but he got hammered so badly that he said, never again, now I'm going to be irresponsible. And he is. And he was intimidated by the far left because, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to primary Schumer. And she'll beat him in New York State, unless things change. I don't think Schumer's even going to try it, okay? He'll hang it up. I think the election's in 4 years or whatever. But Schumer does not want to be brutalized by the far left. He's a coward. He is. He's always been that way. He's not going to stand up for anybody but himself. So Schumer knows the right thing to do is to keep the government open, but he's not going to do it because he voted against it because he doesn't want to get that grief again. And that's the truth. That's absolutely true. Now, Schumer doesn't really care about, in my opinion, I could be wrong, socializing medicine in this country. He cares about himself, as I said. That's it. It's to hold on to his power. But the real far left liberals, they want that socialized medicine. Let me just give you one startling fact, and our friends in Canada can confirm this. There are about 40 million Canadians. There are 343 million Americans. So, like Sweden and like other European countries, Ottawa runs the healthcare system. And it tells the doctors what they're going to make, and the nurses and the drug companies, and sets all the prices. Well, if you want a knee replacement or any kind of what they call elective surgery, you got to wait a long time in Canada, sometimes more than a year. You'll be limping around if you need a knee, okay? So many Canadians come to the United States. There's also a shortage of surgeons in Canada. Did you know that? Because why spend all that money going to medical school and all that time, and then you get out and you're making, okay money, but you're not making American doctor money. So if the Canadian system were brought down here, and I was talking to Howie Mandel about that. He's a Canadian, Mandel. And I was on his podcast. I think it's going to be out tomorrow, but we'll signal you that when it comes out. And I was talking to him, I said, Howie, the American healthcare system will collapse because many, perhaps most doctors, particularly in Los Angeles, New York, the big cities, they're not going to go into the government-run system. They'll go to concierge service, and they'll charge whatever they want to charge. And the Constitution allows them to do that. Government's not going to be able to force them. So you have two tiers. The wealthy people, like O'Reilly and Howie Mandel, we can buy the concierge service and get our knees replaced anytime we want. But the regular folks can't. They'll get much less care. They'll get physician's assistants instead of doctors, because there will be a shortage of doctors if the government runs it. So all it is, I'm sorry to be complicated, but everybody, all of us watching me, listening to me, you're all going to have to go into the healthcare system. Even if you're healthy now, nothing will go wrong. But just know what you're doing. And that's the memo. So Donald Trump under severe pressure for high prices, particularly on food, says that he wants to give everybody $2,000 unless you're rich. Not going to give the rich people $2,000. Fine. I don't want $2,000. I don't want $2 from the federal government. I don't want anything other than what I paid into, which is Social Security and Medicare. They don't want that because I paid it. It's my money. But do I want President Trump giving me $2,000? No. I don't. Give it to somebody who needs it. I don't need it. So how is this going to happen? How is everybody going to get a $2,000 check from the federal government? Well, nobody knows. So maybe the president will define it, but that caught a lot of people by surprise. He said it just yesterday. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. He says he's going to use tariff money, give everybody a lot of money, a lot of relief. I wouldn't be surprised. It's vote buying, no doubt. But many Americans are suffering. They're broke. So we'll watch it. Not going to be easy. And Congress may have to pass this. Not going to be easy. Veterans Day is tomorrow. No mail delivery, federal holiday. Should be. I mean, millions of Americans have died for their country since the Revolutionary War. And I am participating in a special on News Nation. It will run 10 p.m. tomorrow night, Tuesday, on America's greatest warriors and some who were not that great, who everybody thinks were good. Roll the tape.
It's the mid-1800s. The colonies have been liberated by George Washington, and the young nation has been strengthened by Andrew Jackson. But now the Civil War calls on new heroes to keep a fractured Union intact. General Ulysses S. Grant came from humble beginnings and rose to lead the Union Army against the rebellious South. His willingness to make hard decisions led him first to victory, then to the White House.
He was a hero of the Civil War. Without Grant, it might have been a stalemate because McClellan, who was the first commander, he was a coward, and his troops did not respect him. And then Lincoln went through 4 guys, and they were terrible. And finally, he drags Grant, who's out in the hinterlands, because this guy at least will fight. So we analyze all the big generals all throughout history, and yes, in some surprises. So joining us now from New York City is Leland Vittert, the correspondent on The Special, and of course, the author of the book Born Lucky, big bestseller, Dedicated Father, Grateful Son, My Journey with Autism. And anything surprise you about The Special, Leland?
Yeah, that I think it could have been 5 segments. We spent the day at West Point, Bill, after I interviewed you, and they gave us the head of the history department at West Point to take us through the generals and the lessons learned. And it was, I think, one of the top 10 or 15 days of my life listening to him. And our viewers are going to get a taste of that, of the very best, and to walk around the plain, the parade ground at West Point, and see the statues of Washington and Grant, of Eisenhower, of Patton, and then bring those alive on the screen is this just sort of great juxtaposition of the history we know and then the history that will be written by those cadets now at West Point.
Now, I didn't see The Special yet, but they say it's very good. I think it's important for Americans who really don't know a lot, and generally speaking, because public schools don't teach history anymore, about their leadership on the battlefield, because we tend to mythologize our generals and our military now. It's not like Vietnam, where the military was, whoa, they were getting hammered unfairly. But we talk a little bit about Vietnam and the poor leadership that led to that debacle. And then, of course, we talk about the modern wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But what I took away from it was that, and I'm not gonna, I don't want to give it away, but you asked me who the greatest American general was. Don't give it away. We want people to watch The Special. And my answer surprised you, right?
It did. And I would say that the person at West Point who we interviewed, the head of the history department at West Point, disagrees with you, Bill. So we kind of, we adjudicate that in The Special.
Oh, but I didn't get to rebut him. See, you interviewed him after me.
That's what happens when you do your interview first. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of stuff swirling around. Now, one of the guys that you and I kind of went up against was MacArthur, General MacArthur in World War II, who was, a good general, sure, but so many deficits. And you kind of disagreed a little with that, right?
I did. And we went to the MacArthur statue, right, at West Point, and looked at Duty, Honor, and Country, the speech he gave. Old soldiers never die, they just fade away, and went through that with this head of the history department about why MacArthur as a soldier has a different meaning as a general than other generals, than Pershing and others that you and I talked about, Patton, Grant, on and on. What I think was most interesting is, and we tried to do this in The Special, is we tried to find common themes between all these men. And probably what was the most common and most important theme was their ability to gain the respect of their troops. And we pointed that out. You talked about that just now about Grant, and then in the Civil War with McClellan, McClellan's problem. But that was the common characteristic. How they did that through all the different generals is totally different. You think about somebody like Eisenhower and Patton, couldn't be more juxtaposed. Eisenhower and MacArthur, very different personalities, but yet would become such amazing leaders.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there, and I want people, again, it's on Tuesday tomorrow at 10 p.m. News Nation. So just a quick question. The book, pretty impressive, Leland. I'm glad.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad it's out, and it's an excellent Christmas and holiday gift because it gives hope to so many people who have children, not only with autism, but other learning disabilities. And parents need to have perspective. When you did the media for the book, it was mostly friendly media. Nobody was mean to you, right?
No, I think that's what's so amazing, right, Bill, is I did everything from you and Steve Bannon all the way through Joe Scarborough for Born Lucky, talking about the story of my dad when I was diagnosed with autism, adapting me to the world rather than the world to me. And you talk about finding a topic in America right now that Joe Scarborough and you and Steve Bannon can agree on and almost come to tears at different times talking about. It has been this story of Born Lucky. And you said it's a message of hope. And I appreciate, Bill, you talking about how it's been a bestseller, and thank you to anybody who's come on this journey with us and bought the book. But to me, what has been most important about the reception is the emails and the letters and the phone calls and the text messages and the social media posts from hundreds, if not thousands of people I've never known, thanking me for telling them and showing them that they're not alone, thanking me and telling them that there is hope for every parent of a kid.
Yeah, that's the key to it.
Time.
All right, the book is Born Lucky, and I will see you at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight for the Leland Vittert program on a News Nation. All right, so I'm sure you saw the Bill Maher stuff with me, and we're going to run a little bit of that in about 2 minutes here. But that was
run a little bit of it tonight too.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting back and forth. All right, Leland, we'll see you tonight. Thanks for taking the time. Final thought. So I did Billy Bush podcast, Howie Mandel podcast, and Bill Maher HBO broadcast. On the Maher thing, millions of people, I knew that was going to blow up. I told Maher, I said, get ready. So the first thing was anti-Semitism. Roll it.
Bill, thoughts on Jews?
I don't want to make it awkward that I'm here.
No, but all my business people are Jewish, so and they do a great job.
How
One
white
of
of
them's
you?
up there right now. And, we have a personal connection. Perspective from O'Reilly, and I know you're looking forward to that, Maher. You can tell. Number one, you've been doing this show for about 23 years, right?
Yeah.
Did you invite Fuentes on a program?
No.
Why?
That's a bridge too far for me.
Okay.
That's a troll. He's not sincere. It's just gross. Like I said, I didn't even want to talk about him tonight. He's the guy who runs on the field.
You have to talk about him.
The camera doesn't show.
Because he broke through. Because you have to talk about him. So you didn't invite him on a program. I don't live in that world. I didn't invite him on my program. You can get somebody like him at Speaker's Corner in London anytime you want.
Right.
They're wandering around with wine. Okay, so why would you have them and waste all of these nice people's time? Why? Okay? That's number one. All right? So to say, well, everybody...
The answer is because the Republican establishment never met something so far right that they won't, at least some of them, take it seriously.
See, the Republican establishment couldn't care less about this guy.
Well, they could this week.
No. They don't care about him. They are embarrassed by him. Okay, and again, I will do an extensive analysis on what I just said on YouTube this week. The second one was that Maher has alienated some liberals. Roll it. And you were disenchanted, and correct me if I'm wrong, which I very rarely am, so you probably won't have to do that. You're disenchanted with the far left wing of the Democratic Party, okay? Because you believe that it's poisoned the well for everybody else, like the congressman here.
Because
correct?
they never met anything that was counterintuitive that they didn't love.
Right. So they want to put trans people in here, and they want to do this. And it just dilutes the message that the Democratic Party has traditionally had, that we're for the workers. We want to improve the lives of the backbone of the country. Now you're into all this fringe garbage that Americans don't want. I think that's your posture.
I wouldn't put it that way, but go ahead.
Okay. But you might want to rethink, because that's a good way to put it.
Well, I'm still on the air and you're not, but go ahead.
Did that. So we did a town hall on News Nation 2 weeks ago from Kennedy Center. 23 million people watched, 23 million, okay? You can add up all the HBOs you want. You're not going to come close. Just want to correct the record. All right, so there you go. And it's a pretty good joust back and forth. I knew he was going to try to get in one of those, so I was ready for it. The final one is politics in general.
What about Gavin Newsom? Now, I mentioned in the monologue.
He has hair like you. You guys have the same hair.
I wish.
It's a slick back thing.
I mean, you both do have great hair.
I wish someone would come up to me and say, Gavin?
You don't, Maher.
I do.
You want to be Gavin Newsom?
I want to look like him.
You really? You want to look like him? Look at you're in decent shape for an 83-year-old man. He's wrecked the state.
Not enough. Well, okay.
I know that doesn't matter.
He didn't wreck it, but yes, I agree. He's too far left for my taste, and he's not going to be president unless he moves to the Senate. But he's a politician, and I think he has that ability to. And now he looks like he's the front runner. Is he not the front runner for the Democratic nomination as of now?
No.
Wes Moore.
Wes Moore, isn't he?
Governor of Maryland. Okay. So we posted a bunch of stuff on BillO'Reilly.com that I don't have time to play for you. That's entertaining. I watch the Maher show. I would say I watch 50% of the time. Most people are intimidated by him, because he's up there and he's been doing it a long time. But you know me. So anyway, it was a very interesting experience. I've known him for a long time. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed the program. We have, as I said at the top, very busy week. We're on it all. Thank you for watching. I'm Bill O'Reilly, and we'll see you again tomorrow. We've got a very interesting interview with a Marine sergeant who lost his legs in Afghanistan. And I know you've heard these stories before. This is a special story. And I'm proud to bring it to you. And we'll have that a little bit later on as we honor American vets on this federal holiday. So the government shutdown looks like it will end this week. And longest shutdown in history, 41 days, whatever it is. And I'll tell you all about the ins and outs of it. But the most important thing I can tell you this evening, and this is vitally important, is that this whole thing, where millions of people suffered, was contrived. This was a political hit job. And it has not been reported as such. But we don't play that game. We don't play the party game here. Very important for you to know. I'm going to tell you the exact truth about why this government shut down and what is at stake for both parties. All right, so that is coming. And let's begin with the talking points memo. Last night, 9 Eastern time, the Senate voted 60-40 to reopen the government. Now, 60 is the threshold of votes the Senate needs to advance a bill to the floor. You've got to have 60 votes because that overrides a filibuster. If President Trump wanted to blow up the filibuster, that would be a disaster, not only for the Republican Party, but for the country. Because if you had a lower threshold, majority, then you could change laws every 2 years. You wouldn't have any laws. They'd need to be changing and changing and changing and changing and changing. And that's not what the Founding Fathers wanted. They wanted stability. All right. So now the bill goes to the House, and it will be voted upon tomorrow afternoon, and it will pass. There are enough votes. In the vote last night, the only Republican who defected was Rand Paul. Now, I know Dr. Paul, and I don't want to say bad things about him, but this guy's not helping the country right now. And it's not anything to do with Republican or this or that. I respect the fact that he's an independent thinker, but he's an obstructionist now. He doesn't want to spend any money on anything, and he knows that's not the way this system's going to work. So he doesn't support his own party, and that causes all kinds of havoc. So they just reached the 60 vote threshold because 8 Democrats, to their credit, said, you know, we've had enough of this shutdown. And they were Fetterman, Angus King, Maine, Catherine Cortez Masto, Nevada, Jackie Rosen, Nevada, Dick Durbin, Illinois, Jean Shaheen, New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, New Hampshire, and Tim Kaine, Virginia. I was surprised by Kaine. He's a kind of a radical leftist now. So they said, no, we're not going to have it. We'll join the Republicans, and that got passed. All right, we all have what happened. 41 days to do that. Okay, they're the longest running governor shutdown in history. Now, the whole thing, as I said, was contrived. And it goes back to last March when the Democrats did open the government because of Chuck Schumer. And we went over this last night. And if you are a concierge member, you can get a free transcript of every word I say. I'm not going to repeat the reporting tonight, but I'm going to tell you that the goal of the Democrats was to increase spending on Obamacare. That was the goal for this shutdown. And they said the Republicans would shut it down until you increase the spending. And the Republicans said no. Now, Schumer got hell in March from his own party and saw Ocasio-Cortez, the radical leftist congresswoman from New York, start to raise money to run against Schumer the next time around, which I think is 4 years. And Schumer got nervous. But Schumer is through. He's finished. All right, this is his last go around. Now, we looked at this very hard, and I'm going to just simplify it. There was a law signed by President Obama to help Americans who cannot afford health insurance get it. And that is called Obamacare. That is worthy. There are some people, for no fault of their own, who don't have any money, and they got to have health insurance. Now, in order to give them that, or make it very low health payments, other Americans have to buy into the government insurance. You have to have money to give away health insurance. There was a spending level on it for the federal government subsidies. There's a spending level. Once COVID hit, that spending level went whoop, way up because people weren't working, couldn't buy it. But after the COVID stopped, the Obamacare spending is supposed to go back down to the original point in 2010 when it was passed. Democrats said, no, we want to keep the higher spending that was mandated under COVID. The Republicans said, no, we have a $38 trillion debt. We can't spend any more. Now, the Democrats knew the Republicans were going to say that because it would be like a Republican saying to the Democrats, we're going to shut down the government unless you back abortion being illegal. The Democrat Party's never going to do that. It's the same thing. So Schumer knew the Republicans were going to say, we're not going to increase the spending. We'll talk about a new threshold in negotiations, but we're not giving you a permanent bump up in healthcare spending. We're not. And that is what shut it all down. Does everybody understand it? I hope so. I can't make it any simpler than that. Now, after the election of last week, where the Democrats did well, a segment of the Democratic senators said, okay, we won. We got our people elected. So we don't want to continue this because millions of people are being hurt. And that's to their credit, those 8 senators I mentioned. The other senators on the Democratic side don't care how many people get hurt, led by Uncle Bernie Sanders. Go.
Look, I think it was a terrible, terrible vote. At a time when we have a broken healthcare system, this is going to make our healthcare system even worse. And that vote last night paves the way for 15 million people to be thrown off Medicaid.
I'm not telling the truth. Nobody's thrown off Medicaid. The rules changed. If you are an adult who can work, you must look for work or volunteer in order to get Medicaid. Is that unreasonable? No, it's not. There are medical exceptions. There are mental health exceptions. There are every exception. But if you can work and you're getting free health care from your state through Medicaid, you got to look for work. Sanders never mentions that. He has lost all of my respect. He is a charlatan. He's a communist, hardcore radical. Dangerous. Now, why don't Americans understand what I'm just telling you? Because they don't get accurate information. We have millions of people who watch and listen to me. But there are 343 million people in this country. Okay? And most of them don't listen to me because they don't care or they can't, whatever. I don't know. But they don't know what's happening. All they hear is the media, 80% supporting the Democrats, never tell you the truth, okay? This is what they hear. Roll the tape.
Democrats, you sold out the entire shutdown not to get what you wanted, but for a promise to not get what you wanted later. Where in the art of war? Hold on. Where in the art of, okay, here it is. I got it. Sun Tzu said, never press your advantage. It's unseemly. Fighting's hard. How about a snack?
No surprise, the vast majority of Democrats do not want this. None of those 8 Senate Democrats are up for re-election next year, and 2 have announced they are retiring from the Senate. What a disappointing way to end your career. Reminds me of when Journey released their last single, We Stopped Believin'.
All right, so this is the drumbeat in America. The late nights, the Saturday Night Lives, the straight press on television, on and on and on, never explaining what the real subject is. So the people who don't know much, all right, they absorb this, and you hear them in the crowd. Yeah. What are you yaying for? If you come on and I interview you, I can guarantee 100% you won't know anything. Okay. Now, it worked for the Democrats. NBC News poll, a very simple poll, 1,000 registered voters. Who do you think is more to blame for the government shutdown? Democrats, 42%, Republicans, 52%. Okay? It worked. It worked. Because most people do not pay attention. They don't know what's happening. And they're besieged on television news by Donald Trump's latest statement about whatever it may be. That's all they hear. And that's the memo. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com, name and town. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you are a concierge member, write me any concern, bill@BillO'Reilly.com. You have your own email to me directly. But if you don't understand, I'll explain it again. But again, I think that's the best analysis you're ever going to get. Today is Veterans Day. All right. Now, this is very close to me. So if you follow my career, you know we raised more than $30 million for the Independence Fund. They provided track chairs, high-tech wheelchairs for severely injured vets in Iraq and Afghanistan. $30 million. Independence Fund no longer in business. Okay? We got a track chair to every single vet who needed it with all that money coming in. Now, there are other service people who need help from Iraq and Afghanistan. These are contemporary wars. In Iraq, Americans lost 4,492 people. Okay? 32,292 wounded. That's a big number in Iraq. Afghanistan, 2,456 killed, 20,770 wounded. Altogether, more than 50,000 U.S. service people wounded in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, there is a charity that's doing a lot of good. There are actually two. One is the Fisher House. Okay, but we're not going to do that today, but that's a good charity. The other is Semper Fi and America's Fund. And thefund.org is how you get to them. All right, so they help severely wounded vets and their families in a variety of ways. And one of the men that they've helped is Marine Sergeant Zachary Stinson, who joins us now from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Sergeant, it's good to see you. And I want to tell the folks about your personal story. I'll start it off and then I'll ask you some questions about it, okay? So at 18, you enlisted in the Marines, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Why did you enlist?
Because I liked working out.
You just wanted a free gym to go to. No, but why really did you enlist in the Marines?
Because I didn't want to go to college and start my life out in debt. And I wanted to be the best, so I had talked to enough people that said the Marines were the way to go, so that's why I did it.
Okay. So at 18, you're not fully formed emotionally, but to go to the Marines is usually a very positive experience. 3 years later, you're sent to Afghanistan, right? Is it 3 years after you did boot camp?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you're on patrol in Marja, Afghanistan. Where is Marja?
Southern Helmand Province, Afghanistan.
And you're out there with the guys and you step on an IED, a mine, and you get your legs severely injured, right?
Yes, gone.
Okay. Now, you didn't know that at the time. You just got concussed, and boom, all of a sudden, you're back in the States with two legs that are severely, as you put it, gone. 25 surgeries. Is that correct?
Roundabout, yes. I really don't know the actual number.
It was that many, though.
Oh, yeah, that or more.
And what did the surgeries do for you?
A lot of it was washout, just cleaning out the injury. A lot of dirty bombs over there just because of the dirt. And then everything was else just trying to get function back, trying to get my legs, trying to save as much of my leg as they could. I had my eardrum blown out. I had my pelvis smashed. So just getting functionality in those parts of my body.
All right. So you go through this ordeal, but then you also develop a plan to get yourself back into top shape. Tell us about that.
So I realized one day I looked in the mirror and I was like 220 pounds. And it's just not as easy without legs, just getting up and going for a run or anything like that. So I had to find something that would work. So I grew up as a gym rat, so I hit the gym and then also tried to find a form of cardio and eventually found that in hand cycling.
So you got into cycling and then you started to compete, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've done. I started out in marathons. I went over to triathlon for a little bit, and then since 2023, I've been competing internationally for paracycling, as well as a member of Team USA right now until January.
And you could do all this because of the technology, the medical technology, that even though you didn't have legs, you had enough medical procedure in you that you could function. What level would you say you were functioning at or are functioning at now?
I mean, functioning at now, I don't know. I like to think more positive that I'm around 80%. Being just having the ability to be physical, though, is such a huge aspect of it. People, especially being in a wheelchair, it's really easy to become sedentary and then just kind of roll over and die. So it's just being active and staying active.
All right. And you do that through the cycling. You get married and have 2 girls, right?
Yes, sir.
That is in itself an unbelievable situation. And do you attribute anything to your family life that goes over into your competition and your overall life?
Yeah, I do attribute that. My kids never knew me as a Marine, and I was a pretty good Marine, but they need to see me getting up and doing something. So cycling is that for me. They see me putting in the work and the bike, doing all the training, and then eventually having the competitions and where I have the final result or things. But they see the process of everything, even though my job doesn't look like it used to, just pushing through and still working out and being active.
Okay. You're 35 years old now. What has thefun.org done for you specifically?
So, well, the track chairs, they actually were one of the first ones to get me a track chair back in like 2014, I think. It was very early.
Okay.
They helped me with anything from bike equipment to honestly putting a fence in my backyard so my kids could play and everything in between. They go much more than just what they've done for me. There's a lot more like neurotherapy and other things that really don't apply to me at this current time. But they've got a little bit of everything.
And they stay with you till you're dead, right? It's lifelong.
Absolutely. So they were one of the first people to reach out whenever I got injured and was at the hospital. They made sure my wife was taking care of any of my other family members down in Maryland, because we didn't know how long we were going to be at the hospital initially. So they took care of my family there whenever I couldn't. And then they've been with us ever since. And it's just doesn't stop.
And you also know other vets, of course, that are in the fun.org's orbit. And all, we've checked you out, all have the same great experience.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that has anything negative to say about them. They're literally just a part of our family. I have my previous case manager retired earlier this year, and I still have conversations, back and forth texts and everything. And that goes on top of the case manager I currently have, who I'm in contact with constantly.
And you know, as because you were a Marine, how much the camaraderie helps and gives people support to get through the hardest times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to have a good support system. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the fund, if it weren't for my family and a supportive community. All
right. So we wanted to bring you on and let everybody know about thefun.org if they want to help out. Tax deductible, of course. Veterans Day, the perfect time to help these guys out. And Sergeant, if there's anything that we can do for you or your family, and and for the duration, you let us know. We're here if you need us at all.
Greatly appreciate that. I did just want to make a note that the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation, along with PXG, are going to match up to $7.5 million for the fund till the end of the year.
That's pretty generous, I have to say. Very, very good. The whole thing is a big positive for America from top to bottom. We wouldn't be involved with it if it weren't. Okay, Sergeant, thanks very much. We'll talk again. Final thought, News Nation, 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, Veterans Day special on the best generals and the worst in American history. You love it. It's great. And then we're on with Billy Bush on his podcast, Hot Mics. We're on with Jillian Michaels, Keeping It Real. We're on with Howie Mandel, but Howie did not take off the shades. But it was a very fun interview with him. Howie Mandel does stuff. So they're available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. And if you want to make it easy on yourself, go to BillO'Reilly.com. And we got them there for you. Just pop right on over. And it's worth it. It's fun. So I was very busy when I was out there. It's all in support of confronting evil. And everybody was very nice to us. I got to say, I didn't have any problem with anybody out there. But I'm glad I'm back. All right. Thank you very much for watching and listening to the No Spin News. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I'll see you again tomorrow.